What's good, Blavity family? Welcome back to the channel. You might notice that my background is a little bit different today, and that is because I'm in Sacramento, California. I'm actually here. I did an interview earlier today talking to someone who's running for Congress, and if you want to see more about that, you can go to my Instagram page and see what that's all about. So for this episode, I really wanted to talk about the rage bait economy, and specifically the Black Ragebait economy. The reason that I feel like this is an important conversation is because we live in an era where attention is gold, right? Everyone's vying for attention. Everyone's vying to be an influencer or a content creator or have some sort of proximity to fame. And unfortunately, I think a byproduct of that is that people don't always strive for those things with integrity, because platforms don't necessarily say, hey, you have to be a morally upright, integrous person to have a platform. It's just like, oh, well, if you can capture attention, you get to have a platform. And there are lots of folks who don't go about that in good ways and actually cause a lot of harm along the way. Rage bait is content that intentionally angers viewers to farm engagement with the goal of going viral. And this tactic works because if people see a video and they have a very strong reaction to it, then they're going to engage with it in a good or a bad way. And the attention economy doesn't distinguish between the two. Eyeballs are eyeballs. Now, some platforms may distinguish between the two in terms of algorithmically what they uplift or what they suppress, right? So like if a piece of content is seen as inflammatory, maybe it won't get pushed out as much depending on the ethics of certain platforms. But by and large, I think it's fair to say that we've seen most major platforms not really distinguish between the two. And monetization programs like TikTok Creator Awards and YouTube Partner Programs to some extent enable these rage baity behaviors. And the reason that I specifically want to talk about the Black Ragebait economy is because I feel like it's a subsect of the rage economy that is very, very robust. And by that I mean a lot of people prey on the outrage of Black folks to make money online. It's true. Let's call it what it is. Black people are in so many ways the drivers, the curators, the imaginers of culture, especially in the United States, especially in digital spaces. And so making Black people the butt of a joke, capturing the attention of Black people, it goes a long way. And honestly, in some ways, the Black Ragebait economy feels like almost a kind of like neo-colonial violence, in the sense that this country fundamentally has been built on the pain, suffering, and spectacle of Black bodies. From chattel slavery to human zoos to minstrelsy shows, there is this very long history of profiting off of Black spectacle and Black exploitation. And I do think what we're seeing in the digital space, this Black rage bait, is sort of a continuation of that legacy, but just in a different kind of way. I think the best way to talk about the Black rage bait economy is actually to watch videos of people doing it in real time and unpacking it. So I want to start with a video that may surprise some of you, and that is because it's Stephen A. Smith. And the reason that I'm starting with this video is because I do not think non-Black people are the only people capable of engaging in the Black rage bait economy.
Megan Thee Stallion, why? I don't care what happened in your relationship with Klay Thompson. What did he do to deserve you all of a sudden going on Front Street, Page 6, TMZ, or wherever the hell else to tell the world? How come you couldn't just say it didn't work out? Why you gotta tell the business? And by the way, ladies, if you're gonna tell your business, why not tell all of it? Like, for example, if the brother did step out on you, why? Could it be that you wasn't handling business? Could it be that you got comfortable? Could it be that complacency kicked in? Monotony and normalcy kicked in? And the things that he was doing to step his game up because he got to, because y'all don't tolerate that. You're ladies. This is Stephen A. you talking to, baby. We gonna keep it a buck.
You know, I think it's very easy to boil down this conversation to the sentiment that, you know, it's only white people doing this to Black people. I think that's actually just a incorrect framing. This whole clip is hilarious to me because literally nothing, not a single ounce of anything that Megan Thee Stallion is giving is coming across as normalcy, complacency, or not handling business. I mean, the woman has built a whole career on being a sex icon, and implying that she wasn't doing one of those things when we've literally seen whole videos of her making like a whole Thanksgiving dinner for Klay Thompson's family, right? I mean, the woman wrote a whole song about that man called Lover Girl, and you think she wasn't holding it down. Like, I mean, but look, I'm not here to actually argue semantics. Like, no one was in their relationship except for them. No one knows what really went down except for them. But pressing so hard in the affirmative direction for Klay Thompson, when you know Megan Thee Stallion by and large is beloved in Black community, does feel like intentional rage bait, even if that's how he really feels. So I also really wanted to talk about this Houston police officer that recently went super viral for posting a video where she said the N-word, according to KHOU 11, 25 times.
The amount of times that I will always and forever say that I fucking hate niggers. Oh my god, I fucking hate niggers. Like, I hate y'all. Like, you, like, I don't oh, we were slaves this entire, I don't give a but like, for a reason you guys were slaves. You guys don't know anything better than to fucking steal.
Yeah, and she's obviously not Black. Ultimately, she was fired from her job on April 24th. A very recent update, actually, in that particular situation is that she has appealed the termination. So I think it's pretty unlikely that the appeal will be heard, but she's still trying to get her job back, which is interesting. You know, makes sense in this economy, but I guess if you care about paying the bills, maybe don't go on racist tirades online at the expense of communities that you don't belong to, saying words you have no business saying. Wild thought. And the reason that the video got out is because someone who was on her close friend's story saw the video, screen recorded it, and shared it, and then that's when it started going super viral. And so I think this is a fascinating example because sometimes rage bait is an accidental byproduct, right? Like, I'm sure she posted that video, or I can assume she posted that video to her close friends under the assumption that people that she considered to be close friends would either be sympathetic to or agree with what she was sharing. And obviously she was mistaken because someone recorded that and they were like, what in the world? And suddenly there's a whole economy around it, right? You have news outlets that are reporting on this story, that are writing articles about it, that are running, you know, visuals and videos and bringing in experts to talk about it. You have people who are aggregators who post, you know, other people's content online, who are reposting segments of that video or reposting commentary to that video and making money on that. Then you have also content creators who are reacting to the video, engaging with the video, and making money off of that. So suddenly, out of this one evil bit of behavior, this whole economy has bloomed around it that people are profiting from. And so, you know, are all those kinds of profit made equal? No. You know, I think a Black creator responding to that, who's like, hey, this wasn't okay and this was harmful, and maybe their video goes viral on TikTok and they make a couple $100s off of their video, that feels very different than an aggregator who's like taking that creator's content and putting it on their page without their permission and making money on it. So that's not to equalize all those kinds of responses or all those kinds of monetization, but I do think it's really fascinating how one instance of rage bait, intentional or otherwise, blooms into all sorts of economic outcomes. You know, I think for me specifically, when I think about the rage bait economy, I think about white girls getting box braids. Okay, I'll just say it. White girls getting box braids and posting it on the internet and then acting outraged when there are Black people who are like, hey, that's not all right. And then making multiple follow-up videos about it, or getting the braids in the first place to enrage people, to get attention, so on and so forth.
Pizza, you're mad, I'm back. Big mad, he's mad, she's mad, big fat. Ha ha, don't care, stay mad. President, General, President General, President General. Yeah.
So I just got out of the shower, and why did nobody warn me that getting braids was gonna make my hair fall out?
Girl, ask the Vikings. Ask the Vikings. They must know why your hair is falling out.
I think when it comes to hairstyles like box braids and Fulani braids and so on and so forth, these things are hotly contested and debated, right? There are some folks who feel like anyone should be able to wear any hairstyle and that it's always or usually cultural appreciation. Now we're all one race, the human race, right? There are other folks who feel offended by those things and see them more as cultural appropriation. There are other people still who sort of think it's a case-by-case scenario. I'm not really interested in debating how we feel specifically about that, but the fact that we're talking about it at all, that you probably have a strong feeling as you're watching these videos one way or another, is evidence of the fact that they're playing on the rage bait economy, the Black rage bait economy, right? And I think that choice to post a video, to make certain decisions and film them that hit on these very culturally sensitive touch points is profitable. These kinds of videos elicit strong reactions, whether it's people condemning what they're seeing or people defending what they're seeing. And ultimately, it's the person behind that video, the creator, who benefits from that. And really the last big example of this that I really want to talk about is Black AI influencers and the rise of digital blackface that's being enabled by AI. So I was scrolling on my Instagram, like, just regular page the other day, and I came across this video from a creator that I follow. Her name is Zaya, where she was talking about this AI influencer who went super viral during Coachella, and like all the photos were AI, all the videos were AI, and no one seemed to be clocking that they were AI. And and the video was so good, and she really broke down the importance of people understanding these things. And also, like, and this is my own 2 cents, you just don't know who's running these accounts. Like, just because the AI figure is Black doesn't mean the person behind them is Black. And I think that raises a whole different conversation of like, well, one, AI should be clearly disclosed always, period. If it's not, that's a problem, because people need to be able to understand what's real and what's fake. And it's getting so sophisticated, it's getting harder and harder to detect. But two, like, if someone who does not belong to those communities, who is not a Black woman, is making this avatar, almost this like exoticized avatar of a Black woman, and putting her on the internet and making money from it, or gaining social clout from it, or followers, or all the above, like, I don't know, it just doesn't really sit fully right with my spirit. And look, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe other folks don't have that same kind of feeling about it, but I don't love it. I think just another example of that lack of transparency, and there are many, is this AI character on Instagram. The handle is Ava Delon. And this AI character has like almost 600,000 followers, but there's no disclosure anywhere that they're AI. Like, it really is getting very scary. I cannot believe that just a couple of years ago, we were all laughing at that AI video of Will Smith, eating spaghetti. And now there are folks who are watching AI videos that they don't know are AI, and they're believing them, and whole economies are sprouting up around it. I feel like the attention economy, Black Ragebait, specifically AI, like resource hoarding, distortion of reality, all these things are connected. But I also don't want to sound too absolutist here either. I have noticed that there are a lot of AI pages that have slowly been taken down from Instagram specifically over the last couple of weeks. And the reason that I know Instagram in particular has been starting to take some of these AI platforms down is because I was actually working on a video a couple of weeks ago where I had identified a couple like really big AI avatars that had large followings and that were spewing a lot of ultra conservative sentiments. And when I went back to some of those pages to sort of start working on a more comprehensive video about them, all of them have been taken down, which is great. Like, I think some platforms are starting to be like, hey, this is actually really harmful. We can't just let people rampantly make any kind of AI content that they want with no disclosures, especially when it's pushing a particular kind of narrative and shaping discourse in ways that are ostensibly bad. Look, I think the very bare minimum is more regulation around AI, mandatory disclosures on AI videos and AI accounts. And ideally, for me personally, that we just wouldn't have AI at all, especially just given the impact that it's having on the planet, our water resources, our energy resources, and the most vulnerable communities among us who are now in an economy where they're already stretched very thin, seeing rising prices because of data centers. So we've spoken about this a little bit throughout the video, but I really want to put a fine point on who's actually profiting from the Black Ragebait economy. Platforms are winning. Hear me when I say that. Almost across the board, platforms are making the vast majority of the money when it comes to capturing our attention. Because engagement is engagement. The algorithm doesn't necessarily distinguish between outrage and joy. It may flag certain kinds of content or deprioritize certain kinds of content, that go against community guidelines or are sort of being reported a lot or right on the edge of community guidelines. But by and large, if it gets attention, it gets pushed out. And I will say, you know, for AdSense and sort of revenue sharing models, not all platforms are made equal. Like, for example, YouTube is known for having the most equitable split in AdSense revenue with its creators versus, you know, TikTok is kind of known for having one of the worst splits with its creators. And then other platforms maybe don't disclose very clear guidelines as to how they monetize certain people, why they monetize certain people, or don't monetize others. So every platform has its sort of own individual approach to these things. And I think that's important to be named because I don't think it would be fair to paint everything with like a blanket statement or a blanket approach when that's not actually the reality. I think when we're talking about who's actually profiting, it's also really important to discuss aggregator accounts. So aggregator accounts are the folks who, you know, they may have a niche, they may not, but essentially they take viral videos from other accounts and they just collect them and then put them on their page. And sometimes these aggregators will give credit to the creators that they take the videos from, sometimes they won't. And I mean, there's money to be made in reposting videos that you already know to be viral and essentially making them viral again and then making money on them, even though they didn't make those videos, right? So I think there's like an ethical problem there. And specifically, actually, when we're talking about Instagram, I know they just released a new set of guidelines where essentially aggregator accounts are going to be deprioritized in the sense that they will no longer be pushed out to new audiences, but will continue to be pushed out to the audiences that they've already created. And essentially what they're trying to incentivize with that is people not just like downloading other people's videos and then re-uploading them, but instead, you know, remixing or adding some kind of additional value and creativity beyond what other people have made. And on the flip side of who's profiting is who's actually feeling the impact of this rage bait economy, who's being hurt by it. And the reality is that when we're talking about Black Ragebait, is Black folks being hurt by it. And I would go so far as to say that it fuels the already existing just sense of antagonism in our society. And I think about this a lot within the context of the semi-recent expose that came out, essentially showing that a bunch of accounts that talk about the United States from the vantage point of like being in the United States are actually run by people who are not based in the US at all. These accounts are often sowing discord and chaos. We know that there are a ton of bots online and that there are various foreign actors and entities that are funding those bots to push certain discourses and tensions and fissures. And ultimately, I think there's a conversation to be had about to what extent what we're seeing online and experiencing online actually reflects the real world. And I would say the more that these kinds of antagonisms are rewarded by algorithms, the more disparate those two realities become. Like there's an online reality and then there's a real world reality. But also those things aren't totally separate. Like the ways that we engage with one another online, the perceptions that are curated online can and do trickle over into how we engage with one another in real life. Obviously, Black Ragebait is bad and harmful and upsetting and exploitative, and that connection between like this thing that we're seeing online, how is it fueling what's happening in the real world? That I don't think is being discussed enough. Like, are we as divided as we feel, or have we just been made to feel this way because the economy and the world structure that we're based in rewards people making other people feel that way? Like, I think those are two very different things. And then I think there are other costs to this kind of economy that we may not think of right away, like desensitization. That every time you and I see a video like this, each time it sort of lowers the temperature for the next time we see it, because it's like, oh yeah, of course, that's what we've come to expect. And I think that's really sad, first and foremost, but also dangerous, because maybe as time goes on, because there's such a sense of overwhelm and desensitization, it becomes harder to care, right? Like that's what desensitizing does to you. Maybe not to us as a community, because we always gonna care about us, but perhaps to other people who are bearing witness. I think also just the mental tax on Black folks, right? At a certain point, it's like you're scrolling, doom scrolling, all this negativity, all this hate, like the mental toll of that is real. And also the erosion of Black digital spaces. Like, I feel like the internet in so many ways has been a place where we get to find and foster community, and where folks who otherwise have been left to feel unseen have been able to be visible and heard and loved and celebrated. And what an awful way to sully a space that ultimately I think can and should be about community and community uplift. So, after all that, what can we do about Black Ragebait content? Because we're not powerless to it, and I think there are different approaches here. The first approach is just to starve it, you know, don't feed the beast. Don't comment on those kinds of videos, don't engage with them, block folks, because ultimately the goal is to capture your attention, good or bad. So if you deny it that, then that's a win. But I do wonder if you think that's the best approach, because sometimes there are some really harmful things that have to be intervened in, that have to be shut down, because when they're not, maybe someone else sees that and they think, oh, that's an appropriate way to move, or that's an appropriate way to treat people or to talk about these things. Another thing that we can and should be doing is supporting the alternative, right? So let's continue to support Black creatives, Black artists who are putting good and love and light out into the world. And then also let's demand platform accountability. These platforms shouldn't be encouraging and rewarding and monetizing this kind of content. To do so is a policy choice, not an inherent default. So we can and should demand differently from the platforms that we make possible. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode, and thank you so much for tuning in to Blavity Town Hall for the last couple of months. I am a little bit sad to share with you that this is the end of our season. Don't worry, I'm not going away forever, but this season has officially wrapped, so you will not be seeing me bi-weekly for a little bit of time, but I have had such a blast making these videos. I love seeing your comments and your feedback and just getting to sit down and be present with you on such a regular basis. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for trusting me and listening to me, and don't worry, I'll see you again soon.